Okay. When the story came out about us doing this, as you would expect, there are some wags in the Boulder Daily Camera's comment section. I hope they're here tonight. One of them posted
Be serious about that. You're here.
One of them posted this picture, and I thought that was great. I said, I will use that for my talk. So I'm going to tour you around Homer. I'm going to show you what the mystery is behind all of this. And this, I hope, is a little bit interactive. So here we are. This is the mysterious model. Now what the mysterious model looks like is we have Boulder's load, okay, connected to an AC grid. This AC grid, the black line on the left, has photovoltaic feeding into it, wind turbines, hydro, and a bunch of natural gas plants. So what we specified here was some peaking plants. A single cycle plant is a plant that doesn't run very many hours of the year but backs you up in the summertime when you have high peak loads. Combined cycle plants, very high efficiency workhorses, and they're getting better every year. We assume something in the low 40s for efficiency, but you can buy these today from GE that are 60% efficient on a lower heating value rate. They're phenomenal. So that's another reason natural gas is good. Sir?
Just a question, does Homer replicate the Boulder distribution network topology, or is it sort of a lump?
No, it's a lump. It's a lump. There's, there's no, this is not a grid design tool. And we don't have anything about the entry and exit points. This is a accounting cost tool. Combined cycles, and then a few more single cycles. Another thing that sits unused here in Boulder is two 15 megawatt gas turbines that run at the University of Colorado. They run them these days just to heat water. They could produce electricity, but for some reason the university's big bureaucracy and Excel's big bureaucracy can't come to agreement on how to use that electricity in Boulder. So we think, and we account for paying for this in the future. So we assume that the Boulder, whoever's controlling it, figures out some way, whether it's Excel or Immunity, figures out some way to have these assets be replaced by modern ones and be used as peakers in the summertime as well as heating water. So let's see, what else can I tell you? These are sets of grids. So each one of these for, well, I'm not going to go there. Let's go on the tour a little closer. Let's look at what this looks like.
Sam, I have a question. Where does the majority of the natural gas generation come from?
This assumed, so we're agnostic as to how this happens.
Okay.
So Boulder can contract with an independent power producer that's out there today and buy generation. Boulder could build these plants. Colorado Springs runs its own utility. They run their own generation, and that would be what I would think would be the thing to do, because once you have it, and you own it, and it's nearby, you don't pay transmission costs, you don't have to do anything but run it well. And so you can start with brand new, shiny, 60-ish% natural gas combined cycle plants. We could build it at Valmont, we could build it somewhere, but I would say build it local, have those jobs be local, and have the income revenue be somewhat more local than it is now. So anyhow, there's that. Okay, so there's a lot of these plots, so I'll take a little bit of time to explain it. January to December on the bottom axis, hour 0 to hour 24 on the left axis. So what you're looking at here is 8760 data for Boulder. This is the load data for Boulder, and you can go pick a point and say that's July 4th, right there, right before it peaks. So on July 4th, you had a really high load. It was about 240 megawatts, okay? So if you learn to look at these plots, you can kind of realize that winter's at the ends, midday, is right about here, and you can just look at it and say, yep, people are asleep, yep, people are awake, ooh, it's really hot in the summer.
It's always
In this case, this is the Excel data, right?
This is Excel. This is the hour-by-hour Excel data. Okay, so that's one module. So you go set your load up, the way that the load needs to be set up. And then you go set your generators up. So this is photovoltaic, and we put in costs, we put in lifetimes, we put in how you're tilting it, we're putting in the ground reflectance. You really go in and you set up a detailed, this is what my PV system looks like, and this is what it costs, and this is what maintenance I have to do on it. You go to your hydro, and you do the same thing. You go to your wind, which is what I really want to show here. You go to your wind and you say, okay, here's my efficiency curve based on the wind speed that I get from the manufacturer. Here's an upfront cost, here's a replacement cost, here's my annual maintenance cost plus transmission. In this particular one, we added transmission into that, and so on. So I won't bore you with all of them. There's a combined cycle plant. What does that look like? Combined cycle plant's got a little bit more to it. There's the fuel rate. So what's the efficiency? We took the heat rates from Excel's Public Utilities Commission findings and put those in. This is how the program calculates in any given hour how much it's going to consume if you want to put out a certain amount. What this curve shows is if you go to 40% of the ultimate capacity of that turbine, its efficiency will be this, so it'll require this much natural gas in that hour to produce that generation. Okay, so that's our generators. This other thing here, there's batteries, and there's batteries with a DC to AC converter. As I said, we don't see a lot of those until the out years. And so what you tell Homer is that you have a choice of how many GE turbines you want to bring on, okay? That number could be 5, could be 10, could be 30, could be 50, could be 80. You tell it that about each one of these things. You tell it about size, and you say, you go find me the cheapest system that meets my emission constraint that matches the load every hour of the day, every day of the year. So it has to be fully reliable. It has to have those backups, and so you can go in here. There's a few other things I want to show. Just to show we have the solar resource. How do I plot this? 8760. Does that do it? No, that's just Uh-oh.
Sam, to the left.
To the left?
No, on that graph, just
Oh, there we go.
double click.
There we go. That's what I was trying to show you. So there's your solar. See how the days are longer in the summer, they're shorter in the winter, and there's more sunny days in the summertime. So there we go.
The model works.
The model does work.
The sun does come up.
The sun does come up. Good.
You got that right.
So how do I get rid of this piece?
The
I
F.
tried that. There. Okay. Well, I don't plot it very much. Okay, so we've got those. The wind is also fun to look at because you get to look at where's the hole in the wind? Right in the middle of summer. When you need it the most, the hole in the wind is right in the middle of summer. You know, so you're burning a lot of gas, a lot of single cycle plants to back up your wind right here in the middle of summer, which is a darn good reason to have solar, which if you remember had a lot of extra energy sitting right there. So that's one reason to match.
It's like the Matrix.
Yeah. Okay, a few more quick things in the tour. When we do generation costs, we don't do this. This is the annual interest rate plus the rate of inflation, just the way Homer does its math. Project lifetime, fixed capital cost. For instance, you'll see that we have 3 choices there. One is $0 up front. One is 300 million, right? Those are the 2 choices. That's because one of them is just for the cost of generation, and the other is going to be the cost of generation plus your upfront costs. And then the fixed O&M cost per year, one of those is 0, which is if we're just doing the cost of generation, and one is, this is $8 million a year if that's what Boulder ends up spending on its administration of emissions. Okay, and then we can do emissions, so we can look at emissions. You see we have some levels of carbon dioxide emission constraint. Boulder generates, make sure I get this right, 1.1 billion kilograms of carbon dioxide every year, supplying its electricity in the current grid configuration. 1.1 billion kilograms. And so we start our search at half of that. We start at 50% carbon dioxide emissions reduction as our baseline, and we go down from there. Again, the curiosity here was, what is the best that we can do with this? Let's see if I kept it up. Yep. And then you'll see some plots later. How I get those plots is I go in here, And I tell Homer I want to look at the levelized cost of electricity, which is this red line. I want to look at penetration of renewables, and I want to do it as I go from 50% of current carbon emissions to 20% of current carbon emissions. So I go from a 50% reduction to an 80% reduction. And you can see the interesting thing about having a model like this is you can see where the curve starts to bend over. You say, wow, if I get, if I go here, here's my pennies per kilowatt hour, I can go from 8.3, I can get to a huge reduction, a 65% reduction, and it really doesn't cost me that much more. It's half a penny a kilowatt hour, but if I want to get all the way to 80%, I'm going to pay for it, big time. So the point of this model is to realize, okay, where's the need? Where should I really be working? And that's the end of the Homer tour. So I got, okay. All righty. So there we have it. See? Happy nuclear plant.